And I think as Bill started out this meeting saying, the board has agreed that junk has got to go. So, I don't really care how much testing you're doing today. I want to know how soon that junk's getting out of there. That's the first thing I want to know. And then how much you test in the meantime, we can talk about that. But getting the junk out of there is the priority. And so I'm listening, but I definitely want to hear when we're getting that junk out of there.
The removal action is very straightforward. It's basically what we in the business call hog and haul. You're going to get an excavator out there and you're going to scrape this material away, you're going to load it into trucks, and you're going to take it to an approved facility. The list is comprehensive. It really is. We picked everything that could be in the construction and demolition debris. We tried to match it up across the board. Pesticides, herbicides, PCBs, emerging contaminants, that's the PFAS or PFOA compounds that people have heard of lately. Volatile organics, which will include gasoline range compounds, semi-volatile organics, which would be the oils, the PAHs, really virtually everything you would anticipate seeing. I would want there to be no questions about missing something from what we collected. The only things that we left off of the list were those things that aren't likely to be present, like asbestos is part of the health department testing, and there may be asbestos in the material, but asbestos doesn't leach. But the reason why you test for asbestos is because it's in the water pipes that are buried below the ground, and it breaks off of those pipes over time. So it's not really typically dissolved or found in groundwater. So we left those kinds of things out. And again, it's subject for discussion. If the town and the town engineer wants us to include them, we'll include them. It's just some things just don't make any sense.
Yes.
You mentioned children playing in it.
Who's speaking?
This is Frank Amy.
Frank Amy.
When my granddaughter comes here almost every day, she has to walk through this stuff to get in my house that has washed down. There's no way you can't, and all the sparkly stuff is trapped in my carpet and ground into my deck and all over the place. And so I guess a child's been playing in it. So what's the hazard?
The hazard would be found in the materials that are in the C&D debris.
Okay, and that has washed down, and that's what we're tracking through. I've swept it out the best I can, but it is embedded in my driveway material and everything.
I don't disagree with you. My very first thing that I talked to Vince about was removing the material from your property.
Oh, I understand that. I was just wondering you mentioned that there could be a problem with children playing in this. Well, this has happened now for quite a while.
The problem with children playing in it, though, tends to be ingestion, and it's inadvertent ingestion. They get it on their hands. They put their hands in their mouth. They say a kid
so she's rolling around on the carpet and playing out on the deck and stuff, so this has probably already happened.
It could be, so it should be addressed.
Okay, thank you.
Frank?
And how would you address that, Jim?
I would, just as I was about to talk to you about, I'd hog and haul it out of there. We put together a plan to remove it. Now that plan is going to expand, but basically the first thing we would do is isolate the area to prevent, inadvertent people from, to keep people out. We would scrape that material out, put it in the back of a truck and get rid of it. Once the material was removed, we would test the soil from where the material was removed to make sure that no contaminants were left in place that exceed the applicable residential use criteria proposed or promulgated by the DEC in something called Part 375, which are the hazardous waste regulations. And we would bring in import clean topsoil, put clean topsoil in and seed it, or at least keep it from migrating away this year because it's already a little bit late. And that would be very protective of human health and the environment. He should not have brought that soil in. There's two regulations that actually apply. There's Part 360 regulations that say you can't bring this type of fill material into a private residence. And there's the town regulation that says you can't dispose of solid waste on somebody's property. So there's two things that this guy did that he wasn't supposed to do. And you know, the contractor, he supposedly has a license to operate. So he's supposed to know what he is and isn't supposed to do. And so he's at fault. You know, Vincent has clearly got to pursue the fact that he caused a problem, and Vincent may have to incur significant expenses on his own to remove this material. But that being said, he still has recourse against this person for not doing it.
Right.
So that material is not supposed to be there no matter what.
Right.
So given that, if I went out and tested it today, there's no guarantee that I would exceed any threshold, any applicable threshold. It's not a certainty. And if I tested it today and it came back clean, all you're doing is giving this guy ammunition to be able to try to leave it in place.
Right.
And you know, and it is going to go to court. So why actually give him the information that he needs to actually defend himself in court? Make him get it if he wants it. Make him try to prove that he can leave it in place. The town is very clear about what its regulations are. The town says it can't be placed there. So clearly it was an illegal disposal of solid waste. And that being said, also it's contains material that it's not supposed to contain if, according to Part 360, if you place construction or this type of fill material on a private residence. So this guy violated at least two different codes. And, you know, I'm not an attorney and I won't pretend to be, but I have worked on cases similar to this. And if there's a clear violation of a code or a rule or an ordinance, generally the person that placed the fill is screwed. Identify the risks, provide ways of protecting people against exposure, and go from there. The most significant issue is for Frank, you know, because he's the closest, and if this stuff is getting into his well, it's going to show up there first, or is getting into groundwater, it's going to show up first. And if it shows up there, then you know that this is going to be more widespread and more houses have to be tested and so on.
And in any contaminant situation, it's important to get rid of the source material. So the sooner that can be done, the better. In fact, I would think maybe the board might consider a target date for the complete removal of all the soil by the end of this calendar year. So get that out of there, do the testing for all the parameters that are there, recognize that groundwater might move slowly, but that the well is only 23 feet away from the fill. So we may have to do quarterly monitoring to get a better handle on what's going on here.